How's it going, guys? It's Nutshell here, and today we have probably the best labs has ever been and will be for the future, and that is because there is one big thing that's happened recently. Obviously, if you've been watching any of the other videos, all of the AI have been improved in quotation marks within Escape from Tarkov's PVE mode. But the great thing about this is that there is one key addition of these AI improvements that is going to help you out dramatically for playing labs, and that is because they now pick up loot. And although this might seem like, okay, well, they pick up loot, okay, that means that there's going to be less for me. But actually, because of the fact that the AI now move around the map, they're going to be picking up loot for you. And this makes a big thing for if you're wanting to essentially make even more money on every single one of your labs raids. Albeit, you know, there is going to be the possibility of running into more PMCs that you will find in the actual game itself. However, the great thing about this is because of the fact that none of the other kind of upgrades have been made to how they react to you, as long as you essentially use the corners, and there are tons of them on labs, you really can essentially just peek out from a corner, one tap them, peek back into a corner, and it works really well. So we got a full lab raid that I want to show you today, but I wanted to show you one other thing that is making lab raids even better, not only because of the fact that you can pick up the PMC loot that they're now going to be looting in the game, but you actually have the ability to keep your lab's access keycard, at least currently. And I think that this could potentially be a bug and not an intended thing from BSG. I don't believe in the patch notes there was anything about labs now being free, but essentially, I assume that when you go into a labs raid, the access keycard, for example, does not get consumed, which is a bit funny, and I guess it's because they're using the same sort of system that they use with offline raids, whereby you go in and everything you go in with is kept. Not entirely sure how it's working, but I would assume there is some sort of correlation between the new mode and what we currently have in the game. So, obviously, Labs Access Keycard's free, adding an extra 166k minimum onto your raid, or if you buy them off of the flea, they're sitting at, about 200k as well. So, it's a really good time for you to actually try out Labs if you haven't already, because even now, if you survive the raid, you're spending less money and you can still make a ton of money as well. So you can see here we've got all of the key cards. The key ones that we're using are blue, green, and black as well. So it seems like the loot spawns in the blue room have been buffed even more than what they previously were. It seems like the entire raid was more stacked out for some reason since this update. It feels really weird because almost every spawn that could possibly be there in each of the rooms was there, and that meant that we were able to pick up a ton of items, and those will be shown at the end of the video as we kind of total up how much money we actually made from the raid, as well as kind of the potential that you have even if we didn't meet any of those PMCs during the raids, which does happen as well. As long as you take a more safe route, you can guarantee yourself a great run. But let's jump in now. So at the beginning of this raid, we can talk about what sort of equipment you want to take into your raids. Now, you got a 35-minute timer in your raids as well, so very nice to have. But essentially what you've got is the ability to use whatever weapons you want. However, you do lose everything if you do get taken out in labs, regardless of the new changes that they've had. If you die, you lose all of your gear that you have that isn't in your back, which means that when you're kind of running around, you want to be quite safe, as well as also being able to get to the key areas. And so the key way that I've been doing this, and have been doing it for the longest of time, if you watch any of the labs guides and stuff like that we've done, is to run the blue, black, and then green room run and then extract, because 99% of the time you're going to be already full of loot anyway, and spending more time going around trying to min-max actually just wastes your time that you could just go straight back in another raid if you're after just purely making money. And of course, when you've got all of those tasks which require you to pick up some of the more, I guess, sought after medical items, this is a great way to do that. It's how I've been able to farm multiple Ledexes, sometimes even multiple Ledexes in one raid, and maybe we'll see an appearance in this one. But essentially, when you first come down, you want to make yourself down to the bottom end of the map where we can turn on the power, which is what we just did. That allows us to use the medical elevator, which is on the second floor. We're in the basement at the minute, or the underground, I guess. First floor is where the blue room and the black room are, and then the green room is on the second one after we go upstairs. Now, I heard someone calling my name, so yeah, not ideal, but I assume what happens is as soon as you hit the button downstairs, the raiders do spawn. They can spawn just there, which is why you saw me looking over there. So yeah, that is definitely a scary thought. But obviously when you're using a pistol or whatever you're using, it's very nice, because when you're using a pistol in particular, if you take out a PMC or an AI, which are quite easy to do now since they come towards you and you can just hold an angle and one tap them in the head, take their gear, you can not only get gear, but you know, you're getting their weapon, you can take some of that out of the raid, and yeah, it just works really well. So it's a great way to farm PMCs whilst also making a killing, a fortune from actually doing the raids themselves. So you can see we hit up the blue room. So this is blue room, and there's a ton of spawns now. Seems like all over the entirety of this blue room there is just spawns everywhere. We're checking, making sure to double check all on the shelves, and making sure to go over here. This is like a common run that I usually do on PVE when I'm just trying to get some medical items, or if I'm just trying to run all of those stims. The amount of stims you get in a raid is beyond broken, which is why we run 2 injector cases now. I would love to run a full backpack worth of injector cases, because the amount of stims you get is crazy. Of course, you get all of the normal medical items. You can get all the way up to defibrillators. You get a lot of Salewers, so it basically kits you out. Labs for me is kind of a funder for all of the items I use, the consumables, Salewers, CMS kits, all of this sort of stuff, as well as making money every time I do the raid. So when I'm going for my tasks or doing anything like that, labs really is amazing, and it hasn't been this good in the longest time. It really is one of the best times to actually grind out labs. I can't say that enough. I feel like if you aren't already doing labs, you should definitely give it a go, and definitely don't be scared of the new PMC AI. They are good, and they can be a little bit broken in some aspects, but a lot of the time, sometimes they're very stupid as well, like walking around a corner just because they heard you or they saw you, and they'll just push you into a silly position, and then you just crawl around that corner, one tap them in the head. It really isn't too bad once you get to the grips with how they respond to you, how they move to you, that sort of thing. You can really do absolutely everything you need to. You can also camp some of the extracts if you really wanted to, because they do extract. They go to the extract and then they get out of the raid. So you can just sit there, you can wait for them. If you want to get some extra loot, or maybe you just need to take out some PMCs, it's a way of doing that. But obviously you can see here we have got ourselves an optomoscope, which we're using in order to complete one of our tasks. I believe it's Crisis, which is one of the final ones in the quest line for therapists. We need Ledexes, but the biggest thing we need is OLOD multivitamins, I believe, and we've only got 1 out of 10. I think we've done the Ledexes, and we've also, or will be doing the Ledexes later, and then we only need a couple more of those ophthalmoscopes, which is really, really nice. And labs is the best way to get those 2 items, the Ledex and the ophthalmoscopes. This is literally the best way, because they're everywhere within labs, especially the medical area where we're at right now, which is pretty much what the run that you need to do. You can enter in the left room there. I don't usually do it because most of the time there's more stims, stuff like that you can have a look at, but as I said, you're going to be more than full with loot. Directly in front of me you saw that some of the doors were open. That's the PMCs walking around, maybe some of the raiders walking around, so not really a problem, to be honest with you. And we can open up the black room. Now black room, obviously, as pretty much anyone will say is probably the best keycard you can get in the game, because there are just an infinite amount of spawns in here. I mean, already as we walk in the door, there's 3 stims, make that 4, and you can see they're just all over the place on the seats underneath. We found ourselves a LEDX there, which is great because now we've completed the crisis task to find them. Now all we have to do is actually extract with the LEDX, and you can see the stims are just everywhere. There can be like 5 stim spawns just next to those crates of like medical crate bits. Obviously you can get spawns of the actual medical cases. And of course these can have LEDXs in, they can have normal items, they can have Vaseline, golden stars, CMS kits, all sorts within those, so it's always worth checking. Me being a bot, accidentally flicking onto my spacebar. There can be spawns on the chairs there, there can also be LEDXs on those chairs, so make sure that you do check the chairs, and it can be quite difficult to see, especially when you've got no flashlight. Now I was just using a gun that I picked up, or a pistol that I should say, that I picked up from one of the previous raids that we've done, where we were playing on customs. I believe it's one of the goons pistols, but either way, now we can kind of move into the center of Black Room. Obviously we've got a ton of stims just there, probably like 14 stims just from there, and then there's another 4 in this room. And the great thing is most of these stims are sat anywhere from like 30 to, well, some of them can be like 15k all the way up to like 120k, 130k, depending on which ones they are. Most of them sitting around 40k, regardless of which ones you pick up. So really nice to get that extra money and guaranteed money. It covers the cost of your raids for probably, if you get taken out, probably like 4 or 5 raids, just purely based on the stims from one raid. So you only have to survive 1 in 4 in order to really not have an issue. Great thing about labs, obviously, as we said, the labs keycard is saved every single time that you play. But the great thing is you can stick it in your docs case, maybe you stick it in your sit case, whatever you've got, you can just put it in there and it will stay with you. You don't have any issues when it comes to that. So it really does work out quite well, and that's basically what I'd recommend. I mean, just stick it up your backside, and then you can end up just making money every single time. Of course, making sure to have injector cases. They're quite expensive, but once you bought them, you pretty much will only use the 2 injector cases. Most raids you want to take in 1 injector case just to actually have your stims in. But in other cases, I mean, you don't ever really need another injector case afterwards. So buying 2, once you've done that, you'll never need one ever again. Anyway, we've come over here, checking the black keycard spawn. Not actually there in this raid, I'm not that surprised. But of course, just checking all of the desks and making sure to pick up the loose loot. Seeing a lot more stims in all of the rooms. Like, genuinely, I very rarely see stims on that area behind me where the grizzly was. And yeah, it just seems like all of the stim spawns are like popping off right now in labs. So if you are wanting to like stock up on maybe hundreds of stims by playing literally like 5 labs raids, I would recommend it. I mean, I've never bought a stim off of the flea, and I use them pretty much every raid, SJ6, mules, that sort of stuff. You just make so many of them from just running the labs raids that you never really ever have to buy them. And if you do, you don't really ever have to buy more than a couple before you run a couple more labs raids. And even when you get low, you just run 1 or 2, and then you're back up to another, 10 to 15 raids that you need to do. Of course, there's the new mule stim, or equivalent mule stim, I should say, which is the 2A2 BTG, which is what we found a ton of this raid. So you can use those instead of mules, and they work pretty much the exact same with less negative effects. So highly recommend using them. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. You can see here, just checking all of the desktops, and then picking up all of the other loose loot. Now, I'm interested to see if you have played labs, whether you're finding the same experience, because for me, it feels crazy. Now, I saw that there's something in the wall. I don't know if this is like a graphical glitch, but this seems to happen when you go near a wall. Now, it never used to happen, but you can see it's saying that there's something around, but it's saying it's in the shelf, and there's literally nothing. I did not know what was going on here, but I thought I'd add it into the video just because, yeah, I have no idea what that's about, but maybe some of you do, so let me know. Now, obviously this is the problem that you run into when you do run labs is, yeah, there's a lot of loot. There's a cat statue there. It's only worth like 30k. So from a perspective point of, is it actually worth swapping out some of this stuff in order to get it? The short answer, I guess, is no, not really. I wouldn't really recommend doing it. It's better to have the 1-slot items that are worth 40k each than, you know, swap out 3 slots in order to get something worth 30k. You can see here on the desks and stuff like this, this is a spot that people often miss. So you want to make sure that you're checking there, check over on the whiteboard. You can see there, I'm still concerned why we're getting the loot icons there. Here seems to be cracked. Like, I've never seen so many spawns on the shelves. Like, genuinely, I was shocked to see so many there. And of course, maybe this is to do with the rate of the mechanical parts and stuff like that, or gunsmith parts that were here. I was just checking the ammunition, and it just seems very weird how many we've actually got in this raid. But it was really, really fun to do these labs raids. They're super simple to do, super quick, and you really don't have to think a whole lot when you do your raids. And that really works to your advantage when you do play. And of course, when you're doing these raids, there's not a whole lot to think about. The greatest thing, I think, is with the addition of the new update and why it is so good is obviously those PMCs, because it's fun now. You've got PMCs that actually move around, they come towards you, they give you loot for free. I mean, what else could you expect? And yeah, I think that is really good. The AI itself is not particularly the greatest, so we can't really say a huge lot there, but either way, really enjoyable nonetheless. But of course, I'd be interested to see what you guys are thinking and whether you've been enjoying. Can you even play the game right now? Because this is something that people have been finding. The game itself is very, very annoying to actually play right now with the servers and all of the error codes that are being spammed out and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's not a pleasurable experience from a standpoint of just wanting to play the game. So yeah, you have that. But overall, I've been really enjoying it. And so with that being said, we will make our way to the medical extract, and then I'm going to jump back into my stash and I'll show you how much money we made and what we actually got, and the sorts of things that you can kind of think of when it comes to getting Raider and PMCs to follow you, and how much you can typically make from one of those. So jumping over to the stash then, here is where we've got all of our loot. This is what we managed to get out of the raid. You can see I've kind of sorted it into the different stims that we actually managed to get. Getting a lot of PMBs and 2A2 BTGs as well as SJ9s. Only one mule this round. But yeah, you can get a ton of stims. You can see just how many we got. It's probably in the region of about 20 to 25, maybe even 30. You've got, well, we got a LEDX, 2 ophthalmoscopes, 2 gold chains, and 3 H2O2. Which aren't worth as much anymore because, of course, they were worth a ton because of one of the barter trades that you could have done. But they're still very, very good. 100k each, which is just extra money every time. They used to be worth absolutely nothing, like 8k, but thankfully, because of one of the events recently, these are super expensive right now. And then, of course, some of the Salewers, medkits and CMS kits and the Grizzly, etc., and all of the Vaseline and Golden Star. So I'm going to go ahead and sell all of this. We'll see how much money we made. Just as a quick thing, if we go to the offers, we got 1 weapon selling and we got some vodka selling, but it's not selling. It's been up for ages. So I will keep note if they do actually sell as to, and deduct that from the total price that we make. But I'm going to go ahead and sell all of this stuff. Most of it will just go to the therapist because most of it is just discard value anyway to therapists. For example, 2A2B oh, I couldn't say that one, are 44k, but you can sell them directly to therapists for 55k. So, you know, you can make money if you're specifically after just purely making money on Tarkov without doing rage, just by doing that. So we'll go ahead and we will sell all of these to just a therapist. Most of it is just utter trash. So we'll get rid of most of them. And then we'll see how much we can make. Might as well do that now, and then you can see live, I guess, how much we've made. And it really doesn't take long to do these raids. They're about 35 minutes, something like that. It's pretty quick and easy. And there you go. So 1.5 million right there. We got ourselves an SJ12, which I thought was worth more, but apparently not. So we can get rid of that. Meldonin, I think it's not worth selling. So we can get rid of that. I know that the SJ6 is worth quite a bit. SJ1 is, yep, less than actually what you can sell it for to Therapist. I don't know why people do that, but they do apparently. And then we'll sell off all of these bits and bobs. That's not worth it, actually. I thought that was actually one of the better ones. But it appears like these are the only two actually worth selling, sitting around 70k. We'll list it up for 65 just so it sells. Usually I would keep it, I wouldn't sell it. There's no real point to doing that. But yeah, I use them all the time. The mules are worth 50k, which may be what you could just sell it to Therapist for. Oh no, maybe not. So we'll list it up for 50k as well. I don't quite know what is going on with regards to the market. Some things are crazy high, some things are crazy low. I don't know why, but things are all over the place with this latest update. So there's that. And then if we go over to the trader, and we can sell these last two items that we've got here and here. So those are gone. And then we can sell all of these med items. I'm pretty sure that ibuprofen's worth quite a bit, so 30k, which we can do. The ophthalmoscopes, I'm not going to actually sell them just for the sake of I want to use them for one of my trades, but we'll check the price anyway and kind of add that to the end because at the end of the day, I might as well use them for my trader tasks. Same with the LEDX as well, so I don't want to get rid of them just to, you know, have to go and get more of them when I've already got them, just for the sake of some money. We can get rid of some of these syringes. They're sitting around 48k, so not a bad one from those. You want to pick up some of these loose medical items. Some of them aren't really worth it, like blood sets, but at the same time, often if you haven't got anything else to pick up, you might as well grab the free 20k. Soleil was here. We've got 3 of those, and we can sell them for about 20k. And then if we pick up the CMS kits, I think these are worth about 20, something like that, which appears to be the right price. So let's have a look. 30k maybe. Might be worth shutting this down. 30k, so we'll list them for 28, just for speed of sale. And there's 5 of them there, so I will make sure to get rid of the one somewhere that is actually, where's the other one? There we go. We don't want to get any of the ones that we didn't actually get during the raid. Gold chains we can sell to therapists. Meds are worth a decent amount, so 30k. I'm not bothered about min-maxing how much money we make. I just want to give you a brief overview of how much we do make. This Atlas, how much do you sell for? 20k. We could probably sell that to therapist or to mechanic even. And then the Grizzly kit is sitting at around 50k. We'll just list that one up. And then the Vaseline we can also list up. And that is, what, like 12k. Might as well sell all of the rest to a therapist. And then we'll see how much we actually made from the raid. Most of this stuff is loose loot that isn't worth a huge amount. The golden star, I believe, is actually worth something. Maybe not. Apparently, just all of the medical items have been drained to the bottom of the pit. So, yeah, we can get rid of this Atlas. And there we go. So that is all of our stuff actually sold. I'll drag down the money that we've got from just quick selling it. I got rid of all of the money if you go back in the video to see what we actually got. And so this money is just from those stims that we quick sold. So that was like 1.5 million just from the stims, selling those to therapists. and then of course some of the other loot that we've just sold. So 1.7 million just on the loose loot without anything selling. If we go to the offers, we have still got the AK and the bottle of vodkas selling, so we can receive all of this, and that should be absolutely everything that we got from the raid. So an additional 500k there, as well as getting ourselves another couple of thousand rubles. So in total, in terms of money wise, so without the LEDX and the ophthalmoscope, so we made ourselves 2.55 million just in pure rubles from selling all of that sort of stuff. It's super quick to sell as well. And then we got ourselves 2 ophthalmoscopes, which are about 65 to 70k. So we'll call it 120k just for those two. And then we got ourselves a LEDX, which we can sell to therapists for about 650. So call that 770. So an additional 770k on top of essentially 2.5 million. So let's call it 3.32 million, I believe, for all of this stuff. So 3.32 million. It took me about 10 minutes, something like that, in order to fully do this raid. 15 to maybe 15 minutes, something like that, to go through and loot all of the rooms. And we got ourselves 3.3 million. Obviously about 600k from the LEDX, but still insanely good for just purely the med items as well as the stims. And remember, if you take out some PMC AI and they've been down in the middle, you can get graphics cards, you can get all sorts from actually looting their body if you take them out, as well as getting their gear, which is probably going to be better than yours, because often you don't take in the best gear into labs just in case you get taken out, and you want to keep your level 6 plates on some of your other armors that you can ensure and make sure you get back. So with that being said, I really implore you to go and try out labs. It's not bad. There isn't that many PMCs. They really aren't too tough to take out. Just make sure, hold an angle and they'll come to you. You don't need to poke out. You don't need to wide peek someone by just walking out into the middle of a corridor, because they will beam you if you don't just one tap them. And often they run in groups. So if you one tap one, you're going to get laser beamed by 2 others. So just be very, very passive when you do make your way around a door, and make sure you've got your headset on, because PMCs walk around now and you'll hear them quite easily, and that is your biggest indicator. So with that being said, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe down below, and I really appreciate all your support. I will see you in the next video. Have a great rest of the day. Goodbye.